5 for the development sprint, individual services. We're finishing out training program upgrades. We're close there, close to getting that in your hands. Customer pre-screening, geocoding, Chicago wards. That's some mapping capability. Email templates. We have an email templates and managing those email templates that go out. Duplicate phone number checks. We enhanced that, I believe. Training program. SIPs and ODET code lookup fixes. This is for the training programs when you enter those, so that you don't have to enter any punctuation stuff like periods and dashes. Some work in negotiated goals, and then that GIS banner system, which is in connection with that geocoding up above. So discovery is still open on the customer flow. Of course, that's going to be a big thing for a long time. Applications, goals, objectives, eligibility, certification, employment credentials. I believe assessment should be on here. I'm not sure why it's not. So that's what's going on in both development and discovery. Any questions from anybody on that development and discovery track? Let me get my chat up here so I can respond if anybody has anything they want to. Well, I can get this out of the way. Sorry, having difficulty finding a spot to get that out of the way. Okay, there we go. All right. So we have the UAT going on. It's supposed to finish today at the end of day, but if you go to Monday, that's okay, because I think there's some folks out today, quite a few folks out today. So we are going to extend that on, and this is for the ETPL pre-screening. So if you're a provider and they're going to go through this part of the system, when you did acceptance testing on it, you should be thinking like a provider. And we have a few people that logged in. Let me find my, and as you know, Kelly's been nagging you in a good way about this. We added a reviewer check-in page, so we'd know if you didn't have any issues with it, that we'd know you got in there. We noticed that 3 of you got in there. We appreciate that very much. Crystal, Jessica, and Cindy, thank you so much. I will say we do need more participation in UAT from the local areas. If you need to share that with someone in your organization, please feel free to do that. But we really need more eyes on this so we don't have any surprises down the road. So we've divided this up, if you remember, into six or so pages here. And that way you can put your comments on the page. And I'm actually going to bring up the page at the same time. So we're going to pop in here. We're going to go to UAT and we're going to go to ETPL. Okay. So when we talk about the collect provider name and email, we're talking about this page here where we enter a provider name, either FEIN or Rapids ID. This is masked to whatever. There's no real Rapids ID. It's just a straight number. FEIN, you know, is 2 dash and then 7 after that. And then there's the contact email address. Just so you remember that. Okay. There's a few things that were kind of weird probably for you because you're not, you know, the normal user is not going to be using fake mail. So because of that, it probably caused a little bit of confusion, but we'll go through this one. But this one was interesting, navigating between the notebook and the provider name email page. If I was partway through entering the FEIN number, it would disappear when I navigated between tabs. So I had to type in full each time and navigate it back to the browser tabs. It if I happen to be partway through, it's because of that formatted mask. So if I went, I think this is where she's going. If I went there and then I went back, it's out of the way. And if I went back to here, you see it's gone. It's because of this mask. If we didn't have that mask like here, if I type in a few characters, stop, come back, it's still there. So that was the confusing part. Same way with here. If I stopped and came back, it's there. But here, if I stop and come back, it's not there. It's just because we masked that to say, hey, this is the format. So we either give up the mask or um, or we just accept it. I had trouble with the tab function attempting to pre-fill the email field. The correct spelling appeared with a notation to tab to fill, but when I did so, the system would not take it. I don't need, is Crystal on, by the way? Christy, you on? I don't think she's on. Maybe. I don't know exactly what this means. I'm gonna have to get a demonstration from her on that one. Okay, so if anybody got in there and they were they queried if we're already in the system and caught the duplicate and referred to me and personally contact school. That's exactly correct. So if you per se would be um, trying to add somebody that was already in the entity management, after you went through this, the next page would say, hey, sorry, this is already here, and you can contact that provider if you thought you were supposed to put that in or you needed more information from that provider. That is correct. That's the way it should be working. Pre-existing provider, I put in test anything. So I started making up entities. Yes, good. On the last made up entity I tried, I accidentally used the previous fake email. Okay, so this is a different situation. If you got a provider that's not in our entity management, they're just gone through pre-screening, and there was an email connected to that provider, then if you match that email, you would get back in there. Now, you would see that data, but you would not get to that location using a real email address. Okay, so just anybody wants to know, like the fake email address, yeah, we don't go through the token process and go through anybody's email box with fake mail. So anybody can get back in there if they have the same fake mail, but that's only in test. But if you used a real one, the only way you could get back to it would be go through the link in your email. So this just one of those unfortunate things when we're testing. So okay. This one here, surprised that the description box took a lot of information, but it does. We probably have like 2,500 characters available there. Even though we say, hey, enter a short description. Yeah, we take a lot of characters there. Okay, adult literacy descriptions are a bit hard to understand. Is there any way to minimize the jargon? Yes, we are. If I show you that, we talked to the state yesterday. Let me just go to one that's already let me get this out of the way. It's always in a way. Maybe I'll put it down here. Okay. If we go to one of these, we go to, let's go to one of these here that is not submitted. Okay. So if I went down here and we typed in, we selected this public-private providers training services, and we selected, didn't matter there, but if we, this one right here, providers of adult education and literacy activities. Okay, so we're going to change this whole sentence to providers of adult education and literacy activities. And then here, we're just going to eliminate this one and just put, does a provider have program or programs that are part of ICAPS? So this is going to be eliminated. This end of this is going to be eliminated. So it'll be a lot simplified. Okay. This one here, nothing really here. It just says, you could have, for out of state, it says you could have several different documents to prove that, I'll show you this. And that's okay. It's okay, whatever they really kind of upload. So let me go up here and just do something like, let me just go ahead and hit this and this. So right here, we select state, and then does a provider have proof? Yes, right here. There could be several different documents. That's okay. Whatever they upload is whatever they upload. And obviously our system doesn't somehow read the document anyway. So if it's a bad document, that'll have to be discussed between the reviewer and the provider, possibly a request to get something better up, whatever that situation may be. But yeah, there could be several documents there. This is another one on if you go out, get kicked out, or you don't finish, or maybe you want to go get one of those documents and you need time. How do you get back? Well, if you're using a regular email address, then you'll have an email still with that link, and that link stays active for quite some time. Okay. This one here we're working through. This is we've got this in a bug right now, and we're trying to reproduce this. But basically, if you tap anywhere on this page, I'll show you this. If I go with no here, if I tap anywhere on this page, obviously I can't get in that. If I type something in here, it's another math situation too. We don't exactly know, and unfortunately Christy's not on here today, but we don't exactly know how this got created, but we're definitely going to fix that message, however she got that, and then we're working on trying to reproduce this. So that's why this number is here. That's logged in our system. That's all that we had. Anyone have any questions about getting into this? If you still want to get in, please do. We appreciate it. Kelly will send out one more time today the information, the email, and all that, so that you can get back in. Here we go, Joel. When the provider uploads documents, where are they stored? Okay, so later on, I'll show you that. Good question. There are several. So if I go, I'm going to show you later on in the review process, actually the review process. If I go to the review process, if I'm a reviewer, I'm going to go there first. And I go to, if I go to this, here's a training program that's not submitted. I'm going to go there. You will notice that, well, I'm a fat liar, big fat liar. There is you're going to see an icon on the actives. There's no active ones here, but, and also on that you can view all the information. So if I go to, Here, I'm just going to go here. It's going to be something like this. I'm going to go here and I'm going to show you here. If I show you one of these, like here, you'll be able to see all the responses, and I still don't see it. The document uploads. Not here either, but we have it available. It's going to be like that. And you're going to be able to see all the information that was in pre-screening and all the upload information. Wait a minute. I think I know where it's at now. Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. Let me go here. Here you go. If you go to the documents tab on the entity, you'll see all the documentation that was here. You'll be able to download it. And this person has this role has all privileges, so they can actually change it and delete it. But that'll be a role based. So hopefully that you'll be able to see all the documents that are uploaded on the documents page. If I go to one, and I know is in here. Well, not in here. That's right. It's not true. That's in staging. If I go in here and I go to this one here, then, well, there's no files there. But anyway, it's on the documents tab of the entity. It's where it's at. And there's also a place here, and if there's any pending ones that shows that information. So good question. So the reviewer of that training programs and entities will be able to see that information. And also we will have a link on training programs from then on out. So okay, thank you very much. And I believe Taylor has some UAT stuff too, a little bit.
Yep, so we're going to switch gears and we're going to go over cycle 4 UAT feedback. So release 4. So cycle 1 was editing customer information, and cycle 2 was the additional contacts. So let me get my screen shared for you all. We'll get right into it. Make my chat hold on. All right. So we'll go over the editing customer information UAT feedback first. So we had this split out into 3 different sections. So the first one was just making sure you could navigate to the customer profile and view customer information. Kelly and Paul both did indicate the same issue when you're using the search filter over here. There are some instances where it's not working quite like you would think it would, especially when you want to click enter to search. It works in some instances like that. I clicked enter and it found my person, but it doesn't seem to work when you're using the advanced features. Like if I type in a phone number here and hit enter, it doesn't do anything. So I'll open up a bug card to make sure that the enter feature works no matter what fields you're putting in for the search bar here. Kelly also had indicated that she wasn't able to pull by Luia Career Planner Office, and that's just because we don't have, when you go and search by Luia, we don't really have the offices and the career planners set up yet. So when you click on that, it's likely going to show no results found. Well, this one does some offices. But once we have this all set up, we have all the Luia set up, the career planner set up, offices set up. We'll go back through and do another pass and make sure that the searching parameters work as expected. So then Paul had no issues editing, same issue as Kelly with the searching up here and then the enter button. And then Paul, I do see that you had 2 enhancements that you had indicated. This first one, I just want to ask to make sure I'm understanding correctly for a possible enhancement. And let me make sure, Paul, are you on before I ask? Yes, you are. Cool. Okay. So are you wanting a column like here on the customer list that I could add from like the hamburger that shows who added the record? Is that what you were indicating, or are you wanting it specifically on the record itself?
Yeah, on the hamburger. So,
Okay.
so that we can identify, because one of the things that we want to be able to do, at least I do, is to see who entered it and when they entered it, right?
Okay.
Because like right now in IWATS, like if you create a customer, you don't know who created that and when. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so like with the IWATS right now, it's more like checking for duplicates and who did what. I want to, it'd be nice to be able to track through the application who did what in the system.
So we do have that on the specific record itself. So if you actually go into your customer and you scroll all the way to the bottom, there's this record information. You can click on it and it'll pull up a modal and it'll show you who created the record, when it was created, and who last updated and when it was updated. I know it looks a little funky right now because we don't have users in the system yet, but it'll do that. We have that throughout the whole system. So that if you're like looking at a specific additional contact that's being added this sprint, so you could see who added this contact, when it was added. When you're actually get into like the career plan and services, you'll be able to see that for like services. You'll be able to see that all over the place. But if you want it here too, so that you could like add it to the hamburger, so you could see it against multiple records, that is something we could add.
Yeah. Thank you.
And then your other enhancement, this is something I'm not sure if we could do, so I would need some feedback from Al or Olivia. So you indicated if there's a way to add a picture to the customer on the customer search page. So like if they upload their driver's license or state ID, could we show that picture that we uploaded next to their name? So you're talking about like when we actually do the duplicate customer search and we put in so when I see like this preview, are you thinking like here you a picture?
Yeah, something where, so like if somebody comes in and applies for the program and you don't know if they're in the system, but you go in and you put it in and somebody's name pops up. But let's say they had a name change, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so then you have their documentation and you have their picture in front of you to process it, but it's not in the system right now. So all you have is a name, birth date, and so forth, and they may not have a social in there. So to be able to identify that this is the same person, and so then you don't create, potentially we're taking care of making duplicates in this new system, but just to be able to identify who this person is. And then also, like, there are times when people, like career planners, will say, hey, I'll leave this document with the front desk, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the front desk has to come in, or they come into the front desk and they say, I'm so and so here to pick up something. But you don't want to give them, like a gas card or something like that without verifying who they are. And so if they can look here and match it up with their picture, and they say, oh yeah, you are who you say you are before we give you money.
Al, Olivia, is that something that we could add if they uploaded a document that had a picture to be able to display that like picture in this
Um,
area?
the one thing I think maybe, I don't think you should probably just like display it unless we're
Or
just,
maybe have like a button they could click to.
we could see if we had brought the documents button in here
Mm-hmm.
for this customer, like if they have documents, then you could see if any of those documents are an image, like a driver's license or something like that.
Okay.
I don't know that it's a good idea to just display, because the only reason why is it's great if you're planning on doing that, taking pictures and putting those up all the time. But if you only have a very, very, very few, it's kind of a waste. And you see a lot of like that J right there on our screen in the chat, right? You see a lot of just characters that say, hey, there's no image.
So
So
you're thinking if we added like the file button where I can
yes,
open that and view all the files for Ted
yep,
here, and I
yep,
see Ted has a driver's license open or uploaded, I can click on that and then that should pull up
exactly,
the image.
exactly. I think since we already got that capability and we already got that widget, so to speak, that gives
Mhm.
us the files, you could go peek at a file if you see if
What
there's
do
I
you
think,
think about that, Paul?
yeah, I think that'll work. I think the biggest thing was just to be able to match the person up and to be able to verify that they're who they say they are. And the career planner may know who they are, right? Because they meet with them, but front desk, career center, whoever that you leave something with, they won't know, right?
Yeah,
So
I
yeah,
think
this
that'll
will work.
work. Perfect. So then customer title bar, we had no issues with that. So just some smiley faces for you all who looked at it. And then coming into editing the customer information, Crystal did note that there is a typo when you display the customer information. So you can see here in the address, there are 2 commas, one after the city and one after the state. So that is a bug that we will get updated for you all. And then the next thing that Crystal indicated had to do with the confirming the customer address. And her main concern here was if there is no difference between what you entered and what was recommended, why does it pop up? Because you're just confirming what you entered essentially is the same thing. She also asked why is the recommended in all capitals? That's something I would have to talk to our development team about, unless Al or Olivia, you know why it's all in caps.
yes, I do know. So when we go out and validate the address, the address is in the validation system. I'm not sure it's the postal one, but it's probably, I think it's from DOT. But anyway, long story short is they're all stored as caps. And it can be, or it does not have to be accepted right there. But you will always see postal addresses in caps. So if they're stored, if you validate them, you'll see this all the time. Like a lot of times, if you don't see that, they're actually converting them to uh, whatever first word case or whatever it is, whatever that is. But so you could take either one of them. It doesn't really matter. Our system will take either one of them. So, but yeah, every time we validate, we go to an API and actually go out and say, is this a valid address? If it's in Illinois, right now our system only checks valid addresses in Illinois. If it's an Illinois address and it finds a match, it will give you, like if you just did that a little bit off, maybe if you spelled 7th and street out, it would still probably find it and bring back that 7267 7th Street like that. So that's why.
Makes sense. And yeah, I see Rory, you just put in the chat that it just depends on the source, like USPS, usually it's always in all caps. So that makes sense. So the other feedback here from Kelly Lapatino down is Kelly did indicate like when you're editing a customer information, is there any reason why? So she was able to update all of the fields, but when you're updating someone's date of birth or any other PII, should we be logging why we're changing it? So right now you can just go in, click edit, and change whatever you want to change. And it doesn't ask you to provide any reason why you're changing. So Kelly is recommending that we have a reason why you're changing it. So that especially if you're going in and changing something like their name or their date of birth, we can go back and look and see why you made that change. So she gave us a recommendation list of like a reason for change. So how that would work is if you come in here and you edit something, when you hit save, a modal will just pop up having you indicate why you changed what you changed. Thoughts on that? So you could say like legal name change, correction of error, just updating information, identity theft, et cetera, et cetera. Do you guys think that that makes sense to provide a reason why you're coming in here and changing, especially when you're getting into, like I said, the names and date of birth and stuff like that? Anybody, any thoughts? Do you like that suggestion? Come on, someone has to have an opinion.
I think it's yeah, it might not be a bad idea. Sorry, I was trying to type it, but it was taking me so long to type it in the chat. I'm like, maybe I'll just blur it in. So, yeah, I could see that. Especially, I guess, I mean, it's probably not terribly common, but in instances where um, someone may have received services, been enrolled, or at least had an application in the system before, and then somebody again maybe in the same LWIA, or maybe the person moves and is seeking services in a neighboring LWIA. We've had that, and they're just looking up and just trying to make sure, like, is this the same person, and if so, why is the name different? So could be a legal name change, from marriage, or the other way around, a separation, divorce. We've actually had youth that were served in like a youth work experience or something, and then 4 or 5 years later, they were maybe 21, 22 at the time, and then maybe they got married, and then their name changed. So that could be so yeah, that if it's if it's not crowding the screen too much, that could be a good thing to have in those instances, I guess. And then um, again, just so it's not and some people, again, this is probably very rare, but maybe they legally changed their name. Maybe it was hyphenated before, it's not, or maybe they changed the spelling of their last name. I think I have seen like one instance of that. I don't know why they didn't like it. They dropped the E off the end or something, so just so like, was this a spelling, a data entry error by the LWIA staff entering the name, or was this right? So yeah, so I could see the reasoning behind that. Again, if it's feasible, and if it doesn't, if it's not too much for like the screen flow and all that.
Yeah, I think it'll definitely be feasible. What would just happen is when you click edit, and if you make, maybe when I entered in Ted's date of birth, I entered in 1983, and then he brings in his driver's license, and I go, oh, it's 1982. That was an error on my part, and I go in and change it. Click save, then you'd have a modal that would pop up that's not this one. But that would just say like confirm reason for changing, and then you'd have a drop down. And then you could just pick why you changed what you changed. And then Omar, I see you said, can the last 4 digits of the social be displayed? So it will be displayed eventually. When we get down more into your private information, so this is where the more like in-depth PII is going to be, we can display the last 4 social down there. So you'll have more UAT on this whole page later down the line. When we get done with the application and things, and we update the profile information here to include your private information, veterans information, we'll do additional UAT, and we could display the last 4 digits down here. The last comments on this page were all smiley faces, so all good there. So that is all UAT feedback for release 4 cycle 1, editing customer information. We're now going to go into release 4 cycle 2. Paul, will there be any place where the full social security number will be displayed? Olivia, if you're on, thoughts on that? Let you kind of, I'm not sure how that would kind of work. If we can display full SSN, would that be in the application itself, or?
Can you hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you now.
Okay. We'll have to do a little more discovery around that. If that is allowable by the state and do it, then yes, we can do that. If typically we only show last 4 and the rest is encrypted, but there might be a couple of like user accesses where we can like have a button that they can open up to show all, but we'll have to get that defined and make sure we're allowed to show full before we say yes to that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Maybe have one of those things like a lot of logins for all of us, when you log into your banking or whatever, where it's like the little eyeball icon or something, where like you click on it to show it, like it's hidden by default, and then maybe if it's an authorized page. But I see also what you're saying too. You got to make sure it's an authorized, career planner, LWEA staff person looking at that screen to see
Yeah,
it. But
so-
if it's allowable to include it, again, I don't know from a programming standpoint if that's a pain to put something like to program the page to have something like that. But I was thinking maybe something like that where it's like I said, by default it's all asterisks, and then you just, or if you hover over it, it shows it, or the little thing where you click it to show, where it says show or something like that. And
yeah,
then it shows.
definitely. If the state allows it to be displayed, then that'll be an easy thing for us to do. And we'd probably go something that route where like maybe the, first digits are just showing asterisks, and then everybody can see the last four, and then those with the dedicated user roles could click like an eyeball icon to show all.
Yeah. But of
Yeah,
course,
so that would be minimal to
yeah.
do. We would just have to check with the state first to make sure that's allowable.
Yeah, I was going to say state, permissible or not, it would be obviously the first. That's the main. Got to get past that confirming that first, obviously.
And Omar, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I just had a question about the social, with the full display of the phone number. Wouldn't we have the actual customer submit their social and be uploaded in their documents, where that can be visible?
So we will not require the social to be entered, but if they do bring in their social and they bring in their social security card for you to upload, then yes, that would be in their documents.
Yeah, because it's part of our eligibility process that they have to submit the social security card itself, a copy of it.
Yeah, so if they bring that in and that's in their uploads, as long as that's allowable to have that in their documents, then that you could find it there as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and as part of the entire transition, we will be changing like policy and stuff around how we just do day-to-day work. So some of the practices you guys are like used to doing might change a little bit, and we're working on getting all that policy flag to change and incorporating it into the training as well. As we're looking to streamline intake and build a more customer-friendly asset-based flow for the customers to get into WIOA and for the career planners to be able to serve them. So some things that you guys are doing now, like requiring SSNs, that will go away with the 2.0, based on federal and state policy of SSN is not a required thing that they provide in order to receive service.
Okay. Is there a preliminary draft of what things are going to change in terms of eligibility requirements?
We're not changing the core of like what is required to be eligible, but the SSN is a big one. We don't have a preliminary draft yet. We're still working through the application and the eligibility pieces, but we are hopefully wrapping that up here soon and can give you guys a better idea of what that new intake and eligibility process will look like.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Right.
just to make a quick comment on the social, because so the main reason I had asked about it is because currently in the IWAT system, like you can see as a administrator, or you can see the person's full social, right? So it's limited access. But I use it to look up IBIS wages, because right now in the IWAT system, it doesn't always load into IWATs from IBIS. And so, when we're trying to do performance, do they have employment, things like that, we go directly to IBIS, put in their social, and get their information to see if that comes up. So that's the main reason that I asked for it. If it would be displayed somewhere where someone like that would be able to be granted access to access that number, so they can do that.
Yeah, and I'll make a note of that, Paul, so that we know like why certain individuals need access to the SSN if it's entered, so that when we go and bring that to the state, we have a solid reasoning as to why certain folks need it. And matching wage data is something that has been brought up before with the SSN, and we have not started discovery on that piece. So there'll be more to come on that as well.
Thank you.
All right, so adding additional contacts. It looks like nobody had any issues on their initial ad here, and getting to the table. itself. So now we're coming into the adding additional contacts. So Crystal did note that she had a hiccup where when she was trying to tab into the phone number entry, that it would, one, receives is spelled wrong, which thank you for that catch, and we are going to get that updated. It was updated in one spot, but apparently we missed it in the other. But when she tabbed into the field, she automatically got an error message that said like invalid rule required before she had even entered any data in there. This has been fixed. And as part of this bug card that's linked here, I don't think it's been updated on UAT yet, but we have fixed that bug, but we will get that typo fixed as well. Another thing she indicated was in the drop down here, when she used the drop down menu and she entered, she had no issues with it, but the second time she tabbed in there, she keyed in a P to pull back parent, but she said she got some unexpected results. The reason for that is that it is pulling all options that contain the letter P instead of starts with. So we could change that if needed so that it's a starts with lookup instead of a contains lookup. This other one is another good point, and I actually wanted to flag this to the other BAs that are on the call for the state dropdown. When you are entering in a lot of people are entering in like abbreviations. It works for Illinois because Illinois is the only thing that kind of comes up with IL. But when you're entering in like any other abbreviations here, it's not pulling up just like, you would assume when you pull up CA, it just pull up California because that's the abbreviation, but it's doing a contains. Would we be able to update this so that it would take state abbreviations? Like when I put in MO for Missouri, it doesn't even pull up Missouri as an option. So a lot of she indicated that could be an issue because a lot of people use abbreviations when they're typing in states to find the correct item. And I'm not sure, is that something Al or Olivia you think the devs could do for the state drop down so that it'll, when we type in abbreviations, it pulls back the correct state?
Maybe we've had some work on that already. I requested some work on that drop down. We might be able to get something different on that, but we're kind of bound to the widget we're using. Yeah, I'm not real fond of the way it works either, but
yeah, and it's something I can bring up to the devs and discuss with them. And if they think it's not going to work, then we'll deal with it. But if they think there's a workaround we could do just for the state abbreviations, then I can see what options we could have. Now that was it for adding additional contacts. And we come to the view page. Same thing she indicated on here with the bug that was happening here, and then the drop down for the state. And then the same thing from release 4 cycle 1 with the address displaying in all caps, which Al already explained to us why that happens. And then the last thing here was when you enter in a second contact, when you saved it, it still showed the little X with the line for the extension when there was no extension. This was also a bug that we caught as well. So thank you for bringing that up, but it has been fixed. So once again, it's fixed in our staging environment, but it hasn't been pushed to UAT yet, but we are aware of it and has been taken care of. And then the last section is deleting additional contacts, which no one had any feedback on. So that is UAT feedback for release 4 cycle 1 and cycle 2. Al just finished release 5 cycle 1. So that's all I had, and I will pass it over. I'll pass it over to Olivia. I'm looking at Rory's comment here real quick about the SSN. Okay, yep, Rory will look into that. But otherwise, Olivia, floor is yours.
Hey, everybody. So I wanted to get, we've been trying to finalize the goals and objectives listing. So a while back, you guys completed a survey on some various goals and objectives broken down into 5 different categories. And we have been working really hard to review these with various people, like our apprenticeship folks for our apprenticeship section. We've talked with IBHE for some of our education ones and ICCB. We've reached out to several different folks to make sure we're covering things correctly. We have also worked to review the language that we used initially, to ensure that the language we're using is customer-centered, it's asset-based, it's plain language, and we're working to make sure that it is written at or below an 8th grade reading level, because we know our universal career plans need to be created collaboratively with our customers. So that is why we wanted to make sure they were customer-centered and asset-based, written at an appropriate reading level. So we've really been working on refining this list in between all the other work we have going on. We're getting to a really good place with this list where hopefully maybe later today, maybe early next week, we will be able to sign off, have looked at everything with all the appropriate groups. And our next step is going to be to put this into UAT. We have the goals and objectives tools built. We just don't have the listing to populate those yet. And one of the questions we had for you all is, as we're going through these and defining them, let me show you guys a little bit in the tool what it'll look like. And then I want to get your feedback on order, the best order that we can present these goals and objectives to you, because there's a couple of different ways that we can do that. So let me see here if I can get into a customer that has these. So this is a test customer. Obviously, we have some pretty messy test data just because we've been really trying to break things and test a lot of the fields and stuff. So whenever we come in to add a goal or objective, we'll start with identifying the type. And then based on that, so looking at our Excel sheet, each of these Excel sheets has a listed set of goals and then a listed set of objectives. And that's what you guys got the surveys kind of on, those goals and objectives and their relevance and importance. So now that I've picked employment, I can see all the employment goals. Again, we don't have the full lists in here. I just put a little bit of test data in here, so we had something to look at as we were doing this. And so it's going to give you a list of these goals that you can pick from, and you can also type things in. So if I know that I'm wanting something related to seasonal or part-time, as they start typing in seasonal, it's going to bring that up. So this keyword search should really help you guys navigate through these as they start to get a little bit longer. And then as you pick one of these, you scroll down and you have your objectives. We're kind of updating the layout of this a little bit. I'm going to make these chevrons and collapsible and try to use more of our key here where we have different icons for goals, objectives, and services. But once you pick a goal, then the objective opens and it uses the list. So if I come up here and I change my goal, my objective list changes based on what I have picked up here. So you can see this one has quite a few. So we wanted to get your guys' thoughts on the best way to order, especially our objective list. Our goal list isn't as big, and we kind of went through and looked at the order of these, and we thought for goals, it would be a good idea to order them on most used. But then for objectives, we didn't know if the order would be better. There's a couple different ways we could do it. We could do it by most used. We could do it by the way somebody would possibly flow through the objectives, like the steps that they would take, or alphabetical. We are kind of unsure on alphabetical because they're sentences. So that first word might not necessarily equate to much for that, but that is another way we can do it. So I would like to open it up to you guys for discussion, and then we'll take a vote on what folks think would be the best way to do that. Happy to answer any questions you might have to help you make that decision. Yeah, so there will be goals and objectives that you can select from. There's also always another option if it's not there. And we're going to tie this in. So based on answers that they're saying in the application and assessments, you're going to recommend, we'll like map those to these to recommend goals and objectives based on the data that they're providing at time of application and assessment. So I have in the chat Cassie mentioned the flow of services would be the preferred method she would like to see for ordering. About other folks. So as we get down, some of these get kind of long, so having an order could be very helpful for your career planners to navigate through these. Got a thumbs up to Cassie's. All right, if nobody wants to come off mute and talk or ask questions, that's fine, and we'll go ahead and take a vote. So if folks can put in the chat then the preferred method they like to see, the flow, the most used, or alphabetical, or if there's another order you'd like to see, definitely type that in. All right. Seeing lots on the flow. So the natural steps that a majority of folks would engage. We know that some people might not need every step, but if in the event somebody would need every step, we'll start ordering in that flow.
So just a clarification question. So I think flow would work, but question is, so like the IEP or the ISS. I mean, like if there's several things that are not being put into the IEP or ISS at that point in time, once you've developed it, will only the items that you've developed show up?
Yeah, so as you
Summary?
come in, the order will just be the order they show in this drop-down list, and you'll just pick the ones applicable to that person, and those will show on their career plan. Then you could add another objective and then pick the next one in the order, and add another objective and pick the next. Maybe they don't need this one and you go to the next one.
Okay.
And you save it, and later they do need this one. You can always come in and add it, like edit it and add another objective at that time. Like now they need this test objective 11. So it'll just be the order that they show in this list for you to be able to add from.
Okay. Okay. And on the youth side, you would be able to add an element, correct?
So the next thing after we add objectives, the next thing that you do is you add your services tied to that objective. And so we are also mapping the services that would support. So it's like for youth, sometimes there's more than one element. I mean, even for adults, sometimes more than one service that would support that. So then, yes, you would identify which service is being provided that customer to support the objective.
Okay, thank you.
And when we get this out to test, first we're going to start on goals and objectives. We still have quite a bit of development and discussion work to finalize the overlaying the services with the objectives. Any other questions on that or thoughts? I think I'm the last one on the agenda, so we have plenty of time if anybody does have questions. All right, so I will take back to the state that we want to map in flow. We started doing so for our employment goals on mapping with flow, but then we kind of paused after after we started doing the first few because we decided we wanted to check with you guys to see if that would make the most sense. So we will continue that work with them this afternoon and possibly into next week if we don't get that done. And then the stuff will be moving to development. I have a very ambitious timeline to try to get it all done in one sprint. So we'll look to either go to UAT on the week of the 24th, or if we don't get it out that week, then we'll have to go the week of the August 7th. But we will keep you guys posted once we get this into development and get started, make sure that we're on time. We'll keep you guys posted when the UAT for starting to get in and touch the goals and objectives will be. Oh, Cassie, you have one more question?
Yeah, I'm just gonna come off mute. Good morning. So with the objectives right now, in Career Connect, when you create an objective is a area where you put in notes. Is that going away?
No, I actually am creating a card right now to add the comment section that
Okay.
we see in goals. It will go, we're gonna have one for objectives too.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I think that's it.
Awesome. Any other questions?
Okay, I got one more.
Yeah.
So, so with the term, what are the options for the terms?
So we have short-term, intermediate, and
Okay.
long-term, and we have the info
Okay.
bubbles there to kind of
Great.
define what those mean.
Great. That's wonderful. Okay. Okay, I think I'm done. Okay, for this time for real.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. If you have more, it's totally good too.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Al, Taylor, Lynette, anything on your end before we close out for the day?
I am good for today.
I'm good, thank you.
All right. And Kelly, are there any announcements that we need to make them aware of, or are they all good on that end too?
No announcements that I'm aware of. I will send out a recap of today and just a reminder if some of you have not done the UAT testing yet. I know Al said he'd kind of leave it open for suggestions still and feedback until Monday. Is that right, Al?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
And I don't know, what we could do to get more inspired to look at the UAT stuff, but we really, really, really want folks to look at UAT and give us some feedback. So thank you very much.
Thanks, all. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Have a good holiday weekend and stay safe.